Yes, sir. Well, good morning, everybody. I apologize that we've been kind of out for the last couple of weeks. We had spring break, and then last week, unavoidably, both Brent and I had some commitments that we couldn't miss. And so we're kind of getting back into the swing of things. And some of the things that we've talked about discussing are going to continue to be part of it. Next week, we're going to talk a little bit about negotiating. We're going to talk about things like follow up, overcoming objections. So we'll revisit a number of subjects. But today, we're talking about something that is starting to become more apparent, that it's becoming more of a valuable mechanism for real estate agents, more so than maybe what we've seen lately. So, market a couple of years ago was so busy that really open houses, if you decided to have one, it was really to procure buyers. But it wasn't even necessary. Interest rates were low enough to where if you put a house on the market that was in good condition and it was priced right, it was just literally sticking a sign in the yard and you just get a number of buyers. Now we're in a market where there are some challenges and some things that we're dealing with. It's a slower market. Interest rates haven't come down to the point where um, you're getting a surplus of buyers in, but there are some other factors that are contributing to it as well, such as post-COVID employment policies. We have a lot of people in our market that are telling us like, "Oh, I'm not ready to buy a house because I'm concerned that my employer is going to tell me to go back to work and I'm going to have to move back across the country." And you have a lot of people that are concerned about recent news when it comes to tariffs and the economy. And there was an announcement yesterday about tariffs across the board for different countries. And whether that, not to get into a political discussion, but for much of the viewing public and consuming public, what it really boils down to is consumer confidence. And there are things out there right now that are potentially, even if they were meant for the best outcomes, are affecting buyer confidence. Interest rates alone are not going to get to a point this year where I would expect a big surplus in buyers. So this year does boil down to that. So you've got a lot of people that are curious, but not really ready to pull the trigger. And that's the value in those virtual calls, is because in a vacuum, if I were to sit there and show you, hey, this is actually a really good time for you to buy because of these reasons, I think most rational people would understand, like, yeah, you're actually telling me the truth. But for a lot of people out there that don't have the benefit of being able to talk one-on-one with a real estate agent like that, their version of dipping toes or getting out and starting to just casually look, kind of kick the tires, if you will. That combined with the NAR settlement changes, I think is really driving more of a market back to open houses. And that's what we're going to talk about today, are open houses and some of the best practices that we've seen people employ, but also some motivation behind it, and trying to really get people on board with the idea of it. And if you are not following on Facebook, there's a Facebook page called Lab Coat Agents, and it's a really good page. It's a national page. A lot of people post data in there. It's one of the Facebook pages where there's a lot of info sharing. Most real estate pages, a lot of people are looking to solicit business and things like that. This is more of like agent to agent conversation, and it's got some really good stuff in there. And there was a gentleman named Payson Robertson, and I'm not entirely sure what market he works out of, that had a post a few weeks ago where he decided to challenge himself to work. I believe it was 100 open houses in 100 days. So 100 open houses in roughly 3 months. And you think, oh my gosh, that's like so many. How do you possibly do that? Well, I'm certain that what he was doing was looking at open houses during the week. He was probably stacking them up on the weekends, working like 10 to 12, 1 to 3, 4 to 6, just different time slots. You could feasibly work up to 6 open houses in a weekend, and just stacking them up and doing them during the week. Now, I doubt that he's got 100 listings or that many that he can sit there and work open houses on the same one over and over and over again. So he was probably leaning in on his broker listings, but also putting himself out there. And this is kind of just that mindset shift of like, all right, I'm looking to procure business in whatever way that we procure business, social media, sphere, lead generation, whatever it is. Working open houses is a way for you to skip the line to the front of the line where people are in face-to-face scenarios with you where you get a chance to talk to them. But also in certain markets where Shawami is a thing, DFW Shawami is a thing here. And if you're not sure what it is, it's a showing service that you can pay for. Typically in our market, it's $50 per door. So if I scheduled somebody to go and look at 4 houses, it's going to cost me about $200, or our team $200. The agent, I think, makes about $31 on that. So that agent that maybe didn't have anything else to do, get out and gets to show houses for 2 hours and make $124, which is not bad. For people that are looking at making ends meet, it's a good opportunity there. But Shawami a few months ago decided to go ahead and allow Shawami showing agents to work open houses. And so whenever we have open houses, if we're limited on our schedule or our availability to work it, you might put it out on whatever medium that you can use. Like in this market, we have a local broker Facebook page, and people share their open houses that people can work on that page. But sometimes you're not always able to get people to do it. Well, with Shawami, you can actually pay people to do it if you want to, and it's about $50 an hour. The last time that I scheduled one there. And I'm bringing this up to say, like, a lot of people may look at open houses. If you're going to go and work an open house for somebody else, I hope to procure buyers, but I'm taking time out of my schedule to go and do it. You know, what's in it for me if nobody shows up? Well, if Shawami is a thing in your market and you have the ability to make a little bit of money by going and working an open house, I would tell you to consider doing that. And, you know, hey, somebody pays you $100 to go work an open house and you can get some leads out of it, and $100 pays for your gas, pays for your signs if you need them, pays for some lunch. Cool. You know, you're not the one having to spend all the money on it. So I would tell people to think about that. But what we have seen, and there's a gentleman that's on this call that I know for sure has had some great success with this. A lot of people are going back to open houses and they're actually meeting their agents there. And that's how they're going and looking at houses. You know, I think a lot of real estate agents out there, even at this point, even though it's been, you know, 8 months, I don't know that a lot of people really know how to articulate the difference between short form buyers reps and long form buyer reps, and really addressing concerns that buyers have about having to sign something to go and see open houses. So as people are getting onto websites like, you know, Google web registration, Zillow, and things like that, one of the first things that they're probably being told is, hey, you've got to sign something to be able to go on and show houses. Natural human behavior is being to say, I don't want to have to sign anything. I'm just going to go and look at open houses. And in the open houses that I've worked over the last couple of months, it's been crazy how many people have said, we've talked to an agent before, but what we're doing is compiling a list of open houses and going out and seeing them ourselves. I've got clients right now that are going out and just driving around, and I've got them under buyer's rep. They're just going around looking at neighborhoods and then just popping into open houses as they see them. They're like, hey, we're comfortable doing this. So you've got a lot of people that are doing that and wanting to do so without feeling any sort of pressure. So we should all be looking at it as like, this is prime territory for me to be able to go out and go and procure buyers. But that's not why we always work open houses. One of the biggest benefits of working an open house in a neighborhood is that you are auditioning and interviewing to every other homeowner in that community. They are watching you. They are watching to see what you do, where you price the house, how you approach things, how you interact with others, how quickly you can get the house sold, you know, all of these things. And so, you know, I think the thought is like, cool, work an open house so that you can pick up some buyers. But if you have a listing, you should be working at least 1 or 2 open houses specifically because you are interviewing for everyone else in the neighborhood. So I want to talk about that a little bit. I think some people think the idea of working an open house is just showing up, jamming a few of these signs in the adjacent streets, putting it out there, and, you know, hopefully getting some traffic. But I don't have any hard data with me, but in my experience over the last few months working open houses, I'd say probably 90% of people that are actually showing up to the open house are people that found it online, not people that were just driving around. But when I say that you're always interviewing, if you have personalized signs, whether or not marketing is something that is going to get a house sold, I had somebody tell me a long time ago, three things are going to get a house sold: marketing, condition, and price. But marketing and condition don't matter if the price isn't right. You can market the hell out of a house and never get it sold if the price isn't right. But it's very important for potential sellers to be bought into what you are going to do to sell the house. What are you going to do to earn the money that I'm going to pay to you, as opposed to just putting a sign in the yard and hoping that it sells. So when we talk about putting yard signs out, again, these folks are watching us. If you're just showing up and just jamming a couple of signs in, they're at the last minute showing up, last minute opening the house up, turning the lights on. If somebody's watching that, they're not seeing like, oh my gosh, this person's really taking the time to prep the house and make sure everything is done the right way and get the house ready to go. They're just kind of half-assing it, if you will. And so even just putting signs out, these signs right here, like I said, you can get at Lowe's or Home Depot for like $3 a piece. But if you have the ability to co-brand through your broker and get some personalized signs, it's really good. It's a cost that's a little bit of a frustration because some people do rip them up. Some people grab them and throw them away. The wind, weather damages them. It's one of those things that you often have to spend money on, but it's impressionable. But if you're going to work an open house and it's your listing, I would definitely say even days ahead of time, going out to that house and going 10 houses in either direction on both sides of the street, knocking on those doors saying, hey, I'm the real estate agent on this house. I just want to let you know that we're going to have an open house this Saturday from 12 to 2. There's probably going to be a number of cars out in the street. I just wanted to give you a heads up as a courtesy to let you know. Okay, great. Awesome. Hey, by the way, we'd love to have you stop by. What I'm going to do is open it up 30 minutes early for all of the homeowners in the neighborhood that want to come by and check out what we're doing and see the house. Because I know a lot of times neighbors want to see what we're doing. So I know the open house is from 12 to 2. I'm going to have it open up and ready to go at 11:30. I'd like for you to stop by. And if there's anyone that you know that may be looking at moving to this neighborhood, please tell them to come by and come and take a look at it as well. So then you're actually actively prospecting via these individuals that live in the neighborhood. Yes, man, I'd love to. I've got a good friend right now that I'm dying that would come and buy a house in my neighborhood. And there are a few houses that are available. Like, dude, come over. Let's go take a look at them. There's a good chance that if you go and knock on 20 doors, that there's going to be someone that is going to say, yes, I may have somebody that may be interested. You're going to have the open house win on Saturday from 12 to 2, but you're going to have it open up for us at 11:30. Great. I'd love to be there. Awesome. And Eric commented in here, flags for open house, 8 foot, those big tall ones that are like flags that wave in the wind. Multiple visitors like them as they are above the parked cars. That's important. That are blocking the typical sign. They're about $70 on Amazon. Yes. And a lot of brokers have a marketing center where you can go on and brand your stuff or get your broker branded things. I think that that's a great point, Eric. Visibility is important, even though most people, again, are going to find the open house online and they're going to know the address that they're going to go to. Again, it's important that everybody else see how much effort you're putting into this. So if you go and talk to the neighbors, have flyers printed off with like, hey, key points of the house, whatever you're going to put together marketing wise, drop it off to those neighbors and say, hey, I'd love to have you stop by. And again, they're watching you. So now you've got 10 households, both directions. So 20 people that you're maybe getting a chance to talk to and showcasing what you're going to do. That is a really good interview. Even if you just picked up one person out of that, whether it's a buyer or a seller, if that only took a few minutes of your time to go and do it, that is Dr. Lawyer level return per hour. It's crazy. So then if you do that, people start coming into your house. I think you're going to want to make sure that you're also well prepared. And people talk about, well, what should I have? And I have a lot of new agents that I talk to, and they're like obsessed with providing water and sodas and cookies. And I don't want any of that. I don't want any of that. If I'm a potential buyer, I just say this in sales in general. sales in general, to be an effective salesperson, is that you've got to understand that the person that you're talking to, that you're trying to sell, quote unquote, has an attitude of the acronym WIFM, WIFFM. What's in it for me? Or WIIFM, sorry. WIFM. What's in it for me? If I'm showing up to an open house, what's in it for me is I'm getting a chance to see the house. What would really take that to the next level is some of the additional information that's in there. And some of the things that have really absolutely stood out to me as a potential buyer when I go into a house and go and look is having things like the seller's disclosure out, like I'm being very transparent, the MLS data that has like the square footage. These things all should be pretty non-negotiable. Like these things should be out, but also other things like a map. Maybe you printed off a map that showed where your central location for your house is, but where all of the other schools are in relation to that house. So if you got an elementary school here, a middle school here, a high school here, those things are actually marked with the distances from the house there. So if the high school is a half mile this way, or the middle school is a quarter mile this way. So somebody that's not familiar with the neighborhood walks in and sees that and they're like, oh, that actually makes sense, because I think the things that sell a listing outside of price, marketing, and condition are highlighting the unique features about that house. You're close in relation to these schools. You've got easy access to a major highway in and out of town. Whatever it is, you've got an HOA that's very community centric, that puts on a lot of events and it's important for your kids. Whatever it is that you can highlight, and have those key highlights kind of bullet pointed and printed off right there, along with some things that really get the juices flowing for a buyer. If I buy this house, you mean to tell me that it's only going to take this long to get here or get there? Oh, there's this place of worship over there, or oh, the highway's right here, or oh, like in Frisco, where we're in the market, and Universal Studios is right there. Hey, this house is only 5 minutes away from Universal Studios. Whatever you can sell it on, have that stuff out too. And I would even entertain putting together a packet. If you had a branded packet for your broker where you could jam in the MLS sheet, the seller disclosure, some of that other information, and just give it to people as they're walking the property. Hey, I want you to have this. Let me know what questions you have. So kind of, again, the what's in it for me. Now, let's talk about what to do once people actually start showing up. I think one of the things that I've seen a lot is that people, whenever they are working an open house, they just tell people, yeah, take a look around. Let me know if you have any questions. I always say that in order to be an effective salesperson, you've got to, again, create value in what you do, but you've also got to lead the way, if you will. People a lot of times are looking for direction. Not everybody is a go-getter. Not everybody's going to take charge in a certain thing. They want to be led a certain way. So you have to lead in a way that isn't sleazy, that isn't gross, but also it's something that helps them understand things. So when I say that, what I'm really talking about is when somebody shows up to an open house, don't ask them the very obvious questions like, oh, are you here for the open house? Well, of course I'm here for the open house. Ask an open-ended question or something that gets them talking a little bit more, like, how'd you find us? Was it the sign or the signs down the road, or was it online? Great. Can you tell me a little bit about your search? How many open houses have you been to? What's your, plan look like? What does your timeline look like? Tell me about your needs as a buyer. If you've been going to a number of open houses, or how have you been seeing houses? Are you just going to open houses? Have you got somebody that's helping you out opening doors? What we want to try to find out is if they actually have an agent. We want to find out if they do, so that we understand, like, is this somebody that we can maintain a relationship with, or is there somebody that maybe we need to talk to that's a part of this transaction as well, without just saying like, oh, cool, do you have an agent? Because that question is always kind of off-putting. It gives people an opportunity to say yes, even if they don't have an agent. Again, we're in a market right now where a lot of people have probably talked to people but haven't signed anything. You have to understand, if they're at an open house, even if they have an agent, why isn't their agent there with them? Oh, our agent was just too busy. Oh, our agent this. What if it's a cousin or a family member that just can't help them? And I'm not telling you that part of your pitch should be to try to sell them on dropping their agent if they're not there with them at the open house. But I want to get an understanding of how you're approaching your home buying process and what I can do to help out. Because if there's something that I can do while you're here to demonstrate value, I want to do it. And there's been a lot of discussion about what is the most effective means by which to capture information. Old school was just a sign-in sheet. But what does that allow people to do? It allows them to put in fake data. They can put in an alias, they can put in a wrong number. I don't want to get called. What I started doing sometimes was actually, I have my contact card saved in my phone. It's like, well, do you mind if I send you my contact card, and then texting it to them? What I've seen a lot of people use to great effect is an app called Curb Hero. I don't know if you can see that. Curb Hero. If you download it, it's a free app, but what it does is it generates a QR code for you. And when you use a QR code and somebody scans it, again, we're thinking about the types of buyers that are getting into market and how much technology is impacting what we do. If you can use an app like that that allows you to scan a QR code and it captures your information, you can also prompt it to ask them questions once they scan that QR code. Things like, what are you looking for? What does your timeline look like? Um, do you have an agent? You know, those types of questions that you don't have to ask, and it captures it all. And something like that is very, very effective if you're going to be very busy at an open house. Because if I sit there and I'm trying to talk to 10 different people, hey, let me get your number so I can text you, it becomes ineffective. If I have a placard or something that has a QR code and I say, hey, just do me a favor, scan that. There's also going to be a note in there that says, you know, what you may be looking for, or like, what would you want me to follow up with you on? Again, some sort of value. I'm going to an open house. There's an agent here that's been very impressionable. He's a listing agent on this house. He's got this house ready to go, very professional in his approach, very conversational, very intuitive, and understands this house. Very impressive. I'm going to scan my QR code and I'm going to put in a note there that says, I do not have an agent, but I'd like to be followed up with on this and this and this. Again, very, very easy. And you can just import that into your CRM. Because I think a lot of people think about, oh, well, how do I convert these people to buyers? I think in that moment when you're working an open house and you're having a lot of really good conversations, and you think, okay, yeah, I'll follow up with you on this, I'll follow up with you on that. Then you leave the open house and then you go and get lunch, or you go home, you go and check the family. Next thing you know, it's hours and hours and hours later, and it's out of sight, out of mind. You're like, ugh, what was that person talking to me about? What did they just suggest? I don't know. So using something like this that tries to actually make it easier for you and catalog everything is really good. Eric, it's called Curb, C-U-R-B, Hero, H-E-R-O, 2 words. So, but going back to the conversation about once people actually start showing up. Hey guys, take a look around. Let me know if you have any questions. Again, it's not very effective. It's not it's not that something is wrong with that. There's not a whole lot wrong with what we do day to day. It's just that we can always tweak things to make it so much better. So what I do when somebody shows up to an open house is I treat them like a buyer of mine. And I say, hey guys, here's what I want you to do. I want you to take a look at this house, walk around, and I want you to think to yourself, how would you rate this house on a scale of 1 to 10, 1 being absolutely no, 10 being absolutely yes? And when you guys come back around to the front of the house, I want to talk to you about that. Is that okay? Cool. Because now you've got the buy-in that I want to have a conversation with you, but you're also giving them some level of homework. And that for a lot of people is exciting. It's like, okay, cool. I get to critique this house. And maybe I don't have any skin in the game, but at least I'll be able to tell them what I think. Because a lot of people like you to hear what they think. Give them an opportunity to walk the house. You're not sitting there following around, pestering them or anything like that. They've got all the marketing material, cool features about the house, the neighborhood, the MLS sheet. They've got everything that they need to know. Let them draw their own conclusions. When they come back around, say, hey, how'd it go? What'd you think? And, get that dialogue going and ask them a question. Well, I told you at the beginning, I wanted you to tell me how you would rate this house. Lay it on me. And they'll tell you. And I always tell buyers that if you're at a 7 or above, you are in the territory of writing an offer. Very seldom will we ever find anything that's a 9 or a 10, but you find a lot of people that really like a house that are at a 7 or a 8. What I want to do is for the seller understand the feedback a little bit better as opposed to just very generic, it's okay, it's okay, with nothing substantive. I want to get more substantive feedback. All right, so how would you rate this house? All right, it's a 6. Okay, great. Thank you so much. Tell me why a 6 and what would get you up to a 7 or an 8. Oh, well, I don't really like where that's situated, or those windows look like they're a little bit old. I'd really like those windows. Or, I don't like how the kitchen's closed off from the living room. Okay, great. What else? What else? And ask those questions. And if you have somebody that's like at a 7 or an 8, like, all right, cool. What would get you to an 8 or a 9? And what you're doing is really getting feedback, for your seller to be able to go back and say, hey, these people had this specific amount of feedback. They did not like or they did not like the windows. So what I think that we may do is when we start calling other agents is saying, hey, the feedback that we've gotten maybe about the windows, would you consider as a seller offering a concession or replacing those windows if we get under contract? Sure. But for those folks that are at a 7 or an 8, or somewhere where you could get them to a 7 or an 8, like, hey, well, how would you respond if the seller was willing to offer you a concession to get those windows replaced? Well, yeah, that'd be great. Where would that put you? Yeah, that'd put me at an 8. Okay, let's talk about that. This is something that the seller would be willing to do. Would that be of interest to you? Yes. And this is where you can really kind of get into whether they have an agent or not. And then if they say, well, yeah, I've got an agent. Well, hey, I'd love an opportunity to talk to them so that we could discuss what this may look like. Have you scan your phone number and where you can put in your agent's information? I'd love an opportunity to give them a call. And if they don't have an agent, say, well, look, I'm confident that we could find something here for you that would get this house to a 7 or an 8 for you. Okay. Can we have a much more in-depth conversation about it? I'd love to talk to you right now, but I want to wrap up this open house. Would you be opposed to a virtual call with me later on today or tomorrow to talk about that a little bit more? No, I wouldn't be opposed to it. Okay, great. Scan your number if you have already. Go ahead and shoot me a text and says, hey, I'd like to talk about this, or I'll jot it down. When works well for us to get onto another call? Because then all of a sudden you've gone from somebody that's walking the property that may or may not have an agent, and you just say, hey, just let me know if you have any questions. And they walk the property and say, all right, cool, good, bye. You haven't had that opportunity to find out what it is for them that's important. Now you're getting an opportunity to find out from them what's important, and you can put some things into motion. And this is how you're going to generate the actual buyers of the property. And if you've got somebody that's a 7 or 8 or a 9 or a 10, I would ask the question, well, if you feel like you are there, what I tell my buyers, and this is not to put any pressure on you, but what I tell my buyers is that if you're at least a 7, you're in the territory of writing an offer. Oh, okay. Well, let me ask you a question. If you are at an 8 on this house, would there be any hesitation to writing an offer? That's a question that kind of puts them on the spot, and it's all on how you articulate it. That could be off-putting or could not be off-putting. But if you just reinforce, like, look, if you have an agent, if you don't have an agent, I'm not trying to sell you on anything. I'm just trying to work on behalf of my seller to get an understanding of where we're at with this house right now. If you're sitting here telling me that this house is at an 8, what would keep you from wanting to write an offer today? Oh, well, I've got a timeline. The last open house I worked, somebody told me, oh, I'm waiting until the end of May to write an offer because I'm trying to generate more down payment funds. Okay, well, what's your expectation of down payment? Oh, yeah, I was looking at putting at least 20% down. Okay, can you tell me, was this going to be your first home purchase? Yeah. So where are you getting that 20% number from? Oh, well, that's what I thought we had to do. If I were to show you that you could actually put 3 or 3.5% down and get this house, is that something that you'd want to take a look at? What, you mean to tell me I only have to put like 3% down? I don't have to get 20% down? Yes, absolutely. Well, how does that work? And you can get into that conversation right there. You can say, look, let's jump on a virtual call. If you're unrepresented, I'd love an opportunity to chat with you a little bit further about it. If you do have an agent, let me talk to that agent and let them know what sort of mortgage types we're accepting and what we're looking for in an offer. And so it's being a lot more purposeful in what we're doing with the open house, as opposed to just opening it up and saying, hey, take a look and let me know your thoughts, or let me know if you have any questions. We are being purposeful. We are using this as an opportunity to lead, generate, and convert right there on the spot. Because again, if I'm a potential interested buyer and I happen to pop into a house, an open house, whether it's open house or a showing, if I'm telling somebody that I think that this house is at an 8, what would keep me from writing an offer on it? Because most concerns and most objections that people have in this market right now can be overcome. Yes, there are certain things that can't be overcome, and timeline is important. Like, I have to wait until this time to be able to do this. But for a lot of people, it's just a lack of knowing of what you can do to get moving forward. And if you like this house and I'm the agent on it and I'm sitting there showing you like, hey, this house hits all these things, would you be opposed to jumping on a virtual call afterwards? Probably not. All right, cool. Let's talk about your search and let's get into it a little bit more. To that point, one of the other things that you can do to demonstrate some value is if someone comes in and says, hey, um, we've just been kind of looking at open houses. We really haven't committed to a realtor yet. We're just taking advantage of open houses. Well, okay. Have you any concerns about establishing a relationship with a realtor? Oh, well, we're just looking at online and, we're told that we have to sign something and we're kind of not at that point. We're not really sure how that's going to work. I've heard some horror stories about it. And then me as the listing agent say, well, look, I completely understand. And it's something that we're having to deal with in the market. Can I actually show you what this would mean to you? And have a short form and a long form already printed out. Have some of those already printed out and show them the difference between those. I think every state has a version of a short form and a regular buyer's representation agreement. And on that short form, there's an actual line item on there where you can select just showing services for free. There's no commitment and you can do it for a period of time. You can even write in a specific address. But if somebody comes in and they tell you, oh yeah, we've been just kind of looking at open houses. Well, guys, do you understand that you're limiting how much you're actually able to go and see, because not every house is going to have an open house. I want to try to sell my client's house, absolutely, but there are some houses that are similar to this on the market within, a 5-mile radius of here. You said you're looking in this area. Have you thought about these houses? And have them pull them up on Zillow on their phone or realtor.com, or have your computer like up, like, hey, have you thought about these houses? Yeah, we've thought about it. We just obviously haven't been able to go and see it. Well, guys, it's 1:30. This open house ends at 2 o'clock. This short form agreement allows me to go and show you a house without there being any commitment, just discloses your rights as a buyer. Would you be opposed to going and seeing this house with me at 2:15 once I get this wrapped up? No. Again, it's kind of taking the reins and saying, I'm going to drive the outcome of what we're doing here, as opposed to, hey guys, thanks for stopping by. Let me know if you have any questions. You are actively trying to convert somebody to move forward with you. And again, a lot of these people have agents say like, look, I'd love an opportunity for us to talk. If you're telling me that you have some interest in this house, if you haven't put your realtor's information in that sign up sheet, please do so. And in the notes, say that you like this house, that you rated it at a 7. I'd like to call your agent just to have a conversation with them. Is that fair? Okay, great. Awesome. And then just make sure that whatever expectations you set with any of these people that come in, like, oh yeah, we've got a house over in this community and we're thinking about moving over here. Well, has anybody ever talked to you about the value of your home and all the different moving parts? With selling your house, understanding what a net sheet's going to look like, what a contingent offer is going to look like, and what an offer on a new house is going to look like. Has anybody ever done any of that with you? No. Okay, great. Would you be opposed to me following up with you on that? Could I take a look at your address and MLS and see what I can find and send you my notes tonight? Okay, great. And if you don't do that night, if you agreed to doing it, you've lost that person. And I'll give you a really good anecdote for this. Our team works with a variety of lead sources. And there was somebody that called me the other day. And for certain lead sources, we put a pause on automated messaging right from the get-go because we don't want to overwhelm them the way we're communicating. And someone called me and said, hey, I talked to so-and-so on your team a little while ago, and they were supposed to have followed up with me that day, and they never did. and it told me that they didn't want to work with me. This is what I'm looking for. Are you able to help me out? Okay, well, can you tell me a little bit more about what exactly happened? And I even suggested I could go back to that person and ask them, do you remember having this conversation with this person? Did you ever follow up? He goes, the buyer tells me that's pointless because that person told me they were going to do something and didn't do it. And that tells me, without telling me, that they don't want to work with me. And so again, what I say is like whenever you scout a neighborhood and you tell those folks to come in, you talk to buyers as they come in, how we represent ourselves and how diligent and kind of encouraging we can be to say like, hey, this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to do it on time. This is how I'm going to follow up. It's impressionable because we are interviewing every single day and every interaction. And being very laissez-faire about things is not the way to do it. All right, cool. I'll follow up with you a little bit later. And then if you ran an open house on a Saturday and then by Tuesday you finally send them your opinion of value based on comps, you've lost that person. And so it's all about setting proper expectations right then and there. But those were some of I know this was a lot of information, but this is an opportunity, I think, in this market right now to take advantage of what's changing in the market. Technology is changing. It's becoming more of a part of it. I think more people are comfortable scanning QR codes right now than just signing something. It allows us to capture more information. I think open houses are going to continue to get busier and busier and busier. We're just scratching the surface right now. It's been a slow market. Not as many buyers are even having an initial conversations with real estate agents. Imagine what's going to happen if interest rates fell to 5.5 tomorrow, and then all of a sudden, boom, every potential buyer out there was like, yes, I want to get into the market. And then they are just met with a wall of people telling them, hey, before we do anything, I need you to sign something. There's going to be a whole lot of no's. I'm not doing that. Nope, I don't feel comfortable doing that. So how then are they going to find what they want? They're going to be going to open houses. So we're going to see more and more and more people, in my opinion, my guess, over time, going to these open houses. And I brought up that Payson Robertson challenge earlier because I think that what we're going to try to do here locally in our market is to try to do something where we do like 100 open houses in 10 days and see what we can get out of it. Because again, we talk to a lot of people that are like, oh, I bought Facebook leads, or I bought this, or I did that. Man, if you're a real estate agent, I'd be looking for every open house that I could possibly work to get in front of people. And just don't look at it as like I have to go work an open house. Comes in that's going to want to help or wants to take the initiative. Hey, tell me about this house. Walk it. Tell me how you would rate it. What does it look like to you? What would get you there? Tell me about your experience. What does your timeline look like? Have you got any experience with this? Whatever it is, push the issue a little bit more, and I guarantee you, you're going to pick up buyers that way. Absolutely, and some sellers. Again, you're interviewing for everybody else. So I'm going to stop there because I've been talking a lot, and that was a lot of information. Hopefully,
If
I
you don't
didn't
mind,
just.
do you mind if I add
Yeah,
something? I
yeah.
noticed when I was gonna do my open house, a lot of people told me that they were watching TikTok videos and shorts, learning about the process to literally avoid using a realtor. And then when I just asked them simple questions on what loan are you looking to do to get this house? They knew nothing. That's our opportunity to help explain things. And instead of trying to say, well, you know nothing, you're not gonna get help, ask them questions to find out what they're short on information and just answer their questions and engage them. I met people that literally flew into Dallas to go do open houses because that's what they wanted to do. Somebody somewhere has told them things and they're just following it. So open houses to me was more fun than anything else, and I got to actually I suck at the phone. I'm just gonna flat out say it. But I love talking in front of people because I used to do that as a professor. So that's my strength. But what I really learned really fast was people are in and out really quick. They're on a mission. If they're in and looking around, start asking you questions, they've learned a few things, but they want to engage you to test their knowledge. We had to realize we're dealing with a bunch of people that are self-educating via YouTube and TikTok. So we may need to pivot on that and play the game and see what happens. And I didn't get a whole lot of leads out of that, but I did get some people that are still kind of communicating with me. It'll take some time. So that was my experience.
I hate using the word. Somebody told me this a long time ago, and it got me thinking different about the word, and that's ignorance. And I think we generally associate ignorance with a negative, like, ah, that person's ignorant to that thing. I don't think it's meant to be a derogatory thing to say. It's like we're ignorant to it. But a lot of people out there that are curious about the process of buying or selling a home are ignorant to the steps to do it. And it's our job to educate. And if we're showing up and just opening a door, but we're not taking advantage of that opportunity to educate and demonstrate value, then what are we doing? And I absolutely agree with you. And I'll give you a really good example. My wife um, has had a wild hair up her butt a few different times about looking at houses outside of Boise, Idaho, and she kept sending me homes on Instagram, and I'm like, okay. I'm like, she's like, I'm not finding these houses on any home searches. I'm not going to Zillow. I'm not going to Google. I'm going on to Instagram and looking up Boise real estate agents and hashtags like Boise real estate and stuff like that. And that's what's given me these results. Now, you're not going to capture everything that's available in an MLS just doing it that way, because it's not the standard for agents to deploy things out, and MLSs for the most part don't communicate with social media pages. That goes back to the marketing of a house. Like, you talk to a seller, they're like, well, what are you going to do to market the house? Well, I'm going to blast it out on social media. Whether or not that gets eyes on it is irrelevant, but it's important to people. But we are seeing more and more people that are going on and doing their searches via things like that and reels. Um, and so you bring up an interesting point. And yes, doing showcases of the house, putting content out there about, hey, if you guys come out to my open house, you could in effect tag an address with your open house and say, a video, hey guys, I'm looking forward to anybody that's coming out, would love an opportunity to chat with you. Please bring all your questions, whatever it is. We can be thinking about these things, but I think at the end of the day, we've just got to be very diligent and forward thinking in how we're approaching these interactions when we get into them. If you get an opportunity to talk to somebody in person, it is hard to get most people to that point. If you can do that, you've eliminated so much of the lead conversion process and gotten straight to the point that's a really big positive that we need to take advantage of. Yep, absolutely. Has anybody else got any questions? No? Well, guys, this is an interesting topic. I think if we end up, because we're going to have a call here locally in our market tomorrow about doing open houses. I think this might be something that's interesting to revisit here in about another month or a month and a half. So if we blast out and do a ton of open houses and we generate a ton of business out of it and we track that data and quantify it, I think that would be good to revisit and talk about. So guys, have a great week. Be safe, be good, crush your goals, and we'll talk to you guys all soon.
That was